She didn't hear the crunch of gravel behind her. She didn't notice the silver SUV parked across the street. She didn't even sense the pair of watchful eyes following her trembling hands as she fumbled with the grocery cart under the flickering parking lot light. All Emma really felt that night was heaviness, heavy silence, heavy worry, heavy loneliness. She thought she was invisible, just another exhausted woman trying to survive the cold outskirts of the city. She didn't know that someone had been watching, not in the way that threatens, but in the way that quietly changes lives. She had no idea that the millionaire in the SUV saw everything, the moment her card declined, the moment she tried to hide her embarrassment, the moment she held back tears for the sake of her sleeping daughter waiting at home. She thought she was alone, but her life was seconds away from a shift she never imagined. If you believe in kindness, second chances, or the idea that life can change when you least expect it, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. It helps the channel grow and help stories like this reach more people. Emma walked home in the biting wind, clutching the half bag of groceries she could afford after putting most items back. She felt like a failure as her feet dragged through the icy sidewalk. Her world had been slowly collapsing over the last year: the divorce, her mother's sudden illness, the medical bills, the second job she couldn't keep because it collided with school pickup. Every day felt like a balancing act she was losing. Yet she forced herself to keep moving because of one reason: her daughter, Lily, a bright 8-year-old who still believed her mother was strong, unbreakable, unstoppable. Emma hid everything: overdue notices, sleepless nights, skipped meals. She told herself she just needed one stroke of luck. Just one. Inside his SUV, Alexander Hale watched her disappear into the night. A billionaire by status, a ghost by choice. His world was built on sharp suits, boardrooms, private jets, everything cold, polished, and controlled. But what nobody saw was the loneliness that sat like a shadow in the back of every room he entered. He wasn't watching Emma out of suspicion or boredom. He had noticed her earlier that week at the same grocery store, giving her last few bills to help an elderly woman who had forgotten her wallet. She had smiled then, a soft, tired smile, but it stayed with him. People rarely gave without wanting something back. But Emma, she gave even when she had almost nothing. That night he watched not to invade her privacy, but because kindness like hers was rare enough to make him pause. Something about her posture, the slight tremble in her hands, the forced bravery in her walk reminded him of his mother, the woman who raised him alone in a cramped apartment before life took its unexpected turn. A flicker of recognition tugged at him. He didn't know her story yet, but he wanted to. Emma finally reached her small apartment, one light left on in the living room, Lily's rainbow drawing on the door. She took a deep breath, forced her exhaustion down, and stepped inside with a smile she didn't feel. Lily ran to her, arms wide, showing her a paper star she made at school. Emma held her close, inhaling the warmth of childhood innocence, the one thing grounding her. After Lily fell asleep, Emma stared at the thin stack of bills on the table. Rent was late again. Her stomach twisted as she wondered how much longer she could juggle everything before everything finally collapsed. Meanwhile, Alexander returned home to a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a glowing city. He poured himself a glass of water, but his mind wasn't on his schedule, meetings, or investments. It was on the woman walking home in the cold with half a grocery bag. He could forget millions in a day and not blink, yet he couldn't shake the image of her wiping tears with the sleeve of her coat when she thought no one saw. He found himself searching her up, not invasively, just enough to learn her name from the store's community list where she had signed up for volunteer shifts months ago. Emma Wynne. A woman who helped others even when she couldn't afford to help herself. Days passed, and their worlds brushed again. Emma lost one of her part-time shifts due to downsizing. The news hit her like a blow. She stood in the bathroom at work, staring into the mirror under harsh fluorescent light, trying to breathe. She didn't know the security camera outside had caught her leaving the building looking like she was made of glass about to shatter. And she didn't know that Alexander, scrolling through local community notifications, a habit he developed to quietly support struggling corners of the city, saw her listed among the employees laid off. He made a decision that surprised even him. Not to swoop in like a savior. Not to hand her money like charity. But to create an opportunity she would believe she earned. Within a week, a new position opened in one of his lesser-known companies, a job tailored for someone hardworking, empathetic, and detail-oriented. He ensured the company described the job as flexible, parent-friendly, and stable. When Emma saw the posting pinned on the community board, she felt a spark she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. She applied with trembling hands. She interviewed with a sincerity that silenced the room. When they offered her the position, she nearly cried. Life felt different. Softer. Possible. Alexander watched quietly from a distance, never revealing his involvement. All he wanted was to witness her rise by her own strength. He admired her resilience, the way she still brought pastries to coworkers even when she couldn't afford them, the way she stayed late to help others, the way she carried her weight with grace. He didn't want recognition. He wanted her to feel like the world hadn't given up on her. One late evening, months into her new job, Emma sat on a bench outside as snow fell softly around her. She looked peaceful for the first time in a long time. Alexander was walking back from a board meeting nearby when he noticed her. He considered walking past, keeping his distance, but something inside him stepped forward. He approached quietly. He didn't mention the grocery store, the layoffs, or the struggles he had witnessed. He simply sat nearby, letting the silence settle between them. In that moment, Emma told him, not knowing who he truly was, that she was finally starting to feel like she could breathe again. She said she didn't know why life suddenly felt kinder, but she was grateful. He listened, his heart tightening, overwhelmed by her gratitude for a world that often ignored people like her. Their paths began crossing naturally after that. Conversations grew longer. Emma felt something she had forgotten existed, a sense of being seen, understood, valued. Alexander, in turn, felt warmth return to a life that had been cold for far too long. They moved slowly, gently, learning each other's worlds. Emma never chased wealth, and Alexander never flaunted it. They met as two people who had been lonely for too long. It wasn't until nearly a year later, when life had softened and opened, that Emma learned the truth. One evening she found documents in Alexander's study, reports showing the job listing, anonymous donations made to cover her mother's medical bills, quiet interventions she never asked for. At first her breath caught. Her knees weakened. She didn't know whether to feel angry or overwhelmed. But then she remembered the way he always respected her dignity, never tried to take credit, never used his actions to bind her. Instead, he simply stood by her life, helping from the shadows, waiting for her to see her own strength. Emma confronted him gently, asking why. His voice trembled as he told her that he once watched his mother break under the weight of life and promised himself that if he ever saw someone fighting that same silent battle, he would never look away. Emma cried that night, tears not of pity or dependency, but of being seen, cherished, and valued in a world that often ignored quiet struggle. Their bond deepened, not because of what he gave, but because of what they found in each other: trust, healing, and second chances. Emma grew into the strongest version of herself, and Alexander found a reason to believe in love again.